Hey guys, tonight we're heading high into the Himalayan mists, where the air gets thin and the stories get thick. Well, just up into the hidden valleys of Tibet, where people whisper about ropes that climb into the sky itself. Not metaphorically, literally. You're standing there, maybe squinting against the icy wind, and someone points up, and there it is. A column of smoke, or string, or fire that stretches straight into the clouds. You probably won't survive this. Altitude sickness would knock you flat in under 30 minutes. But let's pretend you've acclimated like a local llama and you're ready to hike. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. Midnight in Minnesota, dawn in Delhi. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in Amdo, eastern Tibet. Snow has just started to fall. There's a smoky scent in the air, herbal, sweet, a little sharp. You round a frozen corner and suddenly see it. A strange vertical line climbing from a wooden altar into the evening sky. It's not rope exactly, but not smoke either. It flickers like fire, but never burns out. Some call it a sky ladder. Others won't name it at all. The locals say it happens every winter solstice, around the time the year dies and the gods start to whisper again. The older women won't look at it. The men bring yak butter and murmured prayers. And somewhere, a child asks if the monk will come down this time. You don't ask which monk. Geographically, you're on the edge of the Tibetan Plateau, sometimes called the roof of the world. At nearly 5,000 meters above sea level, even the birds take their time up here. The air is thin enough to give Everest climbers nosebleeds before lunch. And yet, in this place, ancient rituals still thrive. Sometimes they involve sand mandalas or butter sculptures. Sometimes they involve something else. 100 years ago, a missionary wrote in his journal about a rope of incense reaching toward the stars, accompanied by drumming from no visible source. That entry was never published. His travel partner, oddly, couldn't recall the event at all. You walk closer. The ladder hums. Not out loud. Your ears feel it more than hear it, like a pressure shift, a tone inside your chest. And now it's moving. You could swear it's coiling upward, like someone's pulling it from above. A teenager gasps behind you. You all step back. You glance around and try to guess what might be fueling this illusion. A projector? No. You're 20 kilometers from the nearest light bulb. Heat rising? Too cold. Static electricity? Possibly, except your hair's flat and your hands are freezing. A fringe researcher once suggested the sky ladders were a naturally occurring plasma filament, anchored by human intention. You're not sure what that means. He also believed pyramid energy could charge your iPhone, so grain of salt. Still, there it is. Tall, thin, flickering, anchored to a wooden box filled with ash and bone chips and crushed juniper. The rope, or smoke, or fire, or whatever, fades gently at the top, disappearing into the clouds like an escalator that forgot to come back down. A goat bleats in the distance. You realize you've been holding your breath. The smell is shifting now. More sulfur, maybe, or burning minerals. One scholar, who visited a similar site near Nagari, claimed the scent was identical to the air near lightning strikes. Scientists still argue whether that's ozone or just imagination. Your fingers twitch with the cold. Your brain itches with 1,000 questions. But nobody answers. The monk approaches. He's barefoot. His robe is a dull red, heavy wool patched with smoke stains. He bows toward the base of the ladder and touches his forehead to the earth. Then he begins to climb. Not the rope, but the air around it. His feet leave the snow, just slightly. And then, more. Everyone is quiet. Even the wind waits. He rises maybe 2 meters, maybe more. His shape blurs against the night sky. His mouth moves, chanting maybe, singing, or just breathing hard. And then he's gone. No flash, no drama, just not there anymore. A child starts to cry. You try to blink it away. Tell yourself he stepped behind a curtain of smoke. You tell yourself the rope dissolved. You tell yourself a lot of things. But mostly, you tell yourself you'll sleep this off and figure it out in the morning. Spoiler, you won't. Some villagers believe the ladders are made from the soul thread of the dead, that each one is a temporary doorway, woven from grief and prayer and altitude. Others think it's all illusion, a tradition designed to frighten or impress outsiders. But if that were true, why do even the old people watch with trembling hands? And why is your heart still pounding? The air tastes strange, like stone dust, like lightning in your molars. You take one last look. There's nothing there now, just snow, smoke, and footprints leading nowhere. Welcome to Tibet. It's morning now. The frost hasn't melted, and your breath still fogs in front of you. But the village is buzzing. People are tying bright silk banners to wooden poles, spinning prayer wheels, and boiling yak milk tea over fires that sputter in the wind. Today is the fire ascent. The sky ladder is gone, but something else remains. A faint scorch mark in the snow, a few footprints circling it, a child's mitten, oddly untouched by frost. And in the center of it all, a bundle of red rope, coiled like a sleeping snake. You ask a man nearby what's happening. He shrugs and hands you a thermos of tea. They'll walk today, he says. You assume he means a hike. You assume wrong. The ladder, you'll soon learn, isn't always suspended. Sometimes it burns upward instead of hanging down. Sometimes it's walked, barefoot, by monks who chant through the pain, stepping on red-hot coils as though they were smooth as cloud pillows. You see it start to take shape. Locals unroll the rope across a dry stone slope, stretching it taut. It's made of thick hemp fibers, coated in something that smells like oil and pine resin. A few women smear it with butter mixed with crushed herbs. A nearby teenager tells you this keeps it from burning too fast. You nod like that makes sense. At noon, they light it. The flame catches in an instant. And then, like it's possessed, it doesn't spread sideways. It climbs, straight up the rope. No wobble, no delay. Just fire racing into the sky as if gravity finally got bored and decided to work backwards for once. The monk arrives barefoot again. A different one this time. Younger, leaner, and carrying a small bell in one hand. He stands beside the burning rope, eyes closed, lips moving. The bell dangles, silent. Then he steps onto the rope. You flinch. The crowd gasps. Someone mutters a prayer. But the monk doesn't scream, doesn't flinch. His feet touch the glowing coils and keep moving, one after the other. The fire licks his robe, but it doesn't catch. The bell in his hand begins to ring, softly at first, then louder with no visible movement. It chimes in time with his steps, a hollow sound that seems to echo inside your ribs. Fun fact, the highest city on Earth is La Rinconada in Peru, sitting at over 5,000 meters above sea level. Up here, in Tibet, many settlements come close, frequently reaching 4,500 meters. That means every breath is work, and every ritual is endurance training. Monks who train for fire ascents often spend weeks in mountain caves first, meditating until their heart rate slows below 40 beats per minute. Try doing that next time your phone dies. Fringe theory time. Some spiritual geographers claim Tibet's high-altitude plains are natural energy vortexes, where dimensional boundaries weaken. That may explain why so many traditions involve going up. Mountains, ladders, ropes, flames. It's all about vertical motion, reaching something above or escaping something below. The monk keeps climbing. His feet don't burn, or if they do, he doesn't show it. People say the fire is only real to those who don't believe. You think that's a convenient loophole. The bell rings louder. Then suddenly he's gone. Not like he disappeared. More like he stopped being relevant to this dimension. One moment, he's climbing. The next moment, he's just not there. The rope burns to the end. The smoke rises into the wind and dances like it's laughing. And that's it. The villagers go back to their tea. The children play with wooden tops. You stand there blinking. You look down at the ashes. There's a shape in them, bare footprints, charred but neat. You crouch for a better look, but someone gently tugs you away. It's the same man who gave you tea earlier. Too long, and the ghosts notice, he says. Then he smiles, and you're not sure if he's joking. Scientists still argue over whether firewalking is a mind-over-matter trick, a physics anomaly, or pure cultural conditioning. There's some proof that walking quickly across coals can prevent burns, but that doesn't explain the uphill fire ladder or the barefoot monks standing in flame for minutes without blistering. A fringe academic from Norway once published a theory suggesting these monks alter their local thermodynamic field through harmonic chanting. His colleagues mostly laughed. One physicist, though, quietly admitted he couldn't rule it out. Later that evening, you see something strange on your camera. You hadn't noticed it earlier. In the background of your photo, right above the rope, just as the flame reaches its peak, there's a faint outline, like a person, but not quite. Slightly too tall, slightly blurred, slightly smiling. You delete the photo. You're not sure why. Back in your tent that night, the wind sounds like breathing. You try to convince yourself it's just the altitude. You try not to think about the bell. But deep in the valley, someone's still ringing it, softly, rhythmically, just enough to keep you awake. You wake before sunrise, pulled out of shallow, altitude-scrambled dreams by the sound of wind. Or is it chanting? Either way, it's too early, and your boots are still damp. But curiosity wins again. The village is still quiet, but one ridge to the west glows faintly in the pre-dawn light. You hike toward it, boots crunching on frozen soil. Along the way, you notice peculiar grooves in the dirt. They aren't footprints. They look like something was dragged, not just through the earth, but up into the hillside. At the top, the air is brutal. So thin, you can feel your lungs working overtime. But the view is worth it. A vast sky, streaked with pale lavender and silver, cracked open by the edges of the coming sun. And then you see it. Hanging from a wooden scaffold, Weather-worn, crooked, and half swallowed by frost, is a long, frayed rope. It points straight into the sky, not swaying, not moving, not held by anything you can see. It's tied at the base and vanishes upward into nothingness. A monk appears beside you like he's been there the whole time, older, stern. He taps the rope and says, "This one touched the moon." You blink. You're not sure if he's joking, but he doesn't laugh. He tells you a story passed down for generations. A ritual once performed under the brightest full moon of the year. One monk volunteered. They tied a rope to an altar and chanted for 12 days. On the 13th night, he began climbing. The rope, they say, moved on its own, coiling up into the sky, stretching past the clouds. The monk climbed it silently, barefoot, without food or water. And when he reached the top, he tied the rope to the moon. He said he would bring something back, the old monk adds, but he did not. Now the rope is left here as a warning or a souvenir, or maybe just because no one knows how to take it down. You ask if anyone's tried climbing it since. The monk shakes his head. Not twice. At this altitude, even walking slowly feels like swimming through syrup. Climbing? Unthinkable. But the stories say otherwise. Over the years, wanderers have tried it. Pilgrims, thrill seekers, drunk soldiers, none returned. Some were found later, lying at the base, perfectly unharmed, but wrong, silent, blank, eyes wide open, like they saw something too large to comprehend. It's hard not to notice how the rope doesn't cast a shadow. Here's your mainstream fact for the day. The moon's gravitational pull is responsible for tides on Earth. It's strong enough to move oceans. So imagine if you really could tie something to it. Wouldn't you expect a little tug? One Chinese astronomer who visited the region in the 1970s believed the rope was an elaborate hoax, strung between two unseen peaks. He tried to measure it with a theodolite. His final note in the travelogue simply said, "The rope is longer than the mountains allow." He never published again. Fringe theorists love this one. They claim the moon tide ladder is part of a larger energy grid connecting sacred high-altitude sites across the world, Tibet, Machu Picchu, Kilimanjaro, that they function as spiritual antennas or gates. Scholars naturally scoff. They say the stories are metaphor. The rope is symbolic, a ladder to enlightenment, not to the literal sea of tranquility. But you're standing there, watching it stretch skyward, and you're not so sure. There's something about the way the rope hums. Not out loud, but in your bones. It feels aware, like it knows you're watching, like it's waiting. The monk gestures toward the sunrise. It's best not to linger. You don't argue. On your way down, you find a smooth stone tucked into a crack in the cliffside. Someone carved a spiral into it, looping upward, almost like a staircase. You pocket it without thinking. That night, by the fire, you show it to your guide. He stares too long. "These stones, we don't keep them," he says slowly. "They are map fragments." "Map to what?" He doesn't answer. But later, when you're half asleep, you hear him muttering. Something about stars that walk, and ladders that move, and people who forget how gravity works. You pull the stone closer under your blanket. The full moon rises. The sky ladder is gone. But something's still pulling at your dreams. You're not sure what woke you. Maybe the cold, maybe the dream. But you're sitting bolt upright in your tent, heartbeat racing. For a moment, everything is dark until your eyes adjust and you realize the fire outside is still burning. That means someone's awake. You step out into the night. The village is asleep, but far in the distance, toward the eastern ridge, there's a faint orange flicker, too steady to be lightning, too wild to be a lantern. You follow it. The path is slippery and uneven, but the moon lights your way, silvering the snow and casting shadows that stretch and twitch when they shouldn't. Halfway up, you start hearing it. Not footsteps, not bells. Something like murmuring. Words you can't understand, layered like static over wind. At the crest, you stop. Below you winds a narrow valley. And through it, like ants on a pilgrimage, dozens of figures move in single file. Barefoot, wrapped in red and ochre robes, each one carrying a small bundle on their back. Some wrapped in cloth, others strapped with bits of bone, wood, or clay. They're chanting, not loud, not synchronized, each voice slightly off, like a round sung by ghosts. The smell of burned herbs carries faintly on the wind. You crouch low, careful not to be seen. Something about this feels personal. Not secret exactly, but sacred in a way that doesn't invite cameras. The procession moves slowly, deliberately, toward a dark opening in the mountain, like a mouth carved from shadow. And one by one, they vanish into it. You wait and wait. No one returns. The fire ascent may be the crowd pleaser, but this is something different. This is a quiet pilgrimage with no drums, no fire, no ceremony. Just barefoot monks carrying bundles and disappearing into the earth. Your guide, who somehow always appears when you need a translator or a warning, shows up at your elbow. You should not watch too long, he says softly. You turn, startled. Where are they going? He hesitates. Not where, when. You try not to roll your eyes, but it's hard. He just shrugs. You asked. Later, over yak soup, he tells you the tale of the winter walkers, monks who take a sacred vow to seek enlightenment not by ascending sky ladders, but by walking backward through time. Not metaphorically, literally. They leave on the longest night of the year, carrying with them relics of the present. These relics, he explains, serve as anchors, small items to remind them where they came from, so they don't forget if they make it back. No one talks to them when they return, he adds. They aren't the same. One such monk, legend says, came back fluent in a language no one recognized. Another could name every person's dream for 3 days in a row, then collapsed, weeping, and died with the words, "We were wrong," on his lips. Your guide stirs his tea. Some say they see what's at the top of the ladder, and some say they bring warnings. Mainstream geographers might tell you. This is a form of ritual pilgrimage, an extreme form of meditation combined with sensory deprivation and controlled hallucination, a coping mechanism for high-altitude isolation, a culture's way of expressing longing and grief. Sure, that sounds reasonable, but then you think of the footprints that didn't lead anywhere, the ones that ended in the snow, or the bundles some monks carry, wrapped so tightly that whatever's inside can't be seen. A head, a skull, a mirror. Fringe writers talk about chronoclines, rifts in time that can occur in remote, unpopulated locations, especially near naturally occurring electromagnetic fields. They cite magnetic anomalies in the Himalayas, clocks that stop, radios that only receive static, or, creepier, pick up transmissions from long-defunct Soviet satellites. Scientists still argue whether these anomalies are just measurement errors or evidence of something deeper. The terrain makes consistent data collection almost impossible. And the monks don't give interviews. You ask your guide if he believes the walkers go back in time. He chews a piece of barley and says nothing for a long while. Then finally, all I know is no one carries food, but they never return hungry. You find that more disturbing than if he'd said yes. Back in your tent, you take out the spiral stone again. This time, under the glow of your flashlight, you notice something you didn't see before. Tiny dots etched between each loop, like dates or coordinates or countdowns. You hold it against your map. It doesn't match anything, except maybe the path the monks took. You try to fall asleep. You really do. But you dream of walking, barefoot, cold stone under your feet, and someone behind you whispering a story in a language that hasn't been invented yet. You wake to drums, soft at first, almost like a heartbeat, but getting louder with each pulse, rhythmic, hollow. You think it's a dream until you unzip your tent and hear it more clearly. Steady percussion coming from the hills, and beneath it, faint chanting, low, slow, and not entirely in unison. That same ghost choir sound. The sky is gray today, not cloudy exactly, just that pale, washed-out look that happens when the sun forgets to try. You wrap yourself in everything warm you own and follow the sound. It leads to the southern slope, where a group has gathered around a series of stone altars, blackened with soot and decorated with cracked bones, bundles of sage, and folded scraps of parchment sealed with wax. The villagers are mostly quiet. The monks stand barefoot in the ash. At the center, a ladder, but not a physical one. It rises from a fire pit like a column of smoke, twisting slowly, impossibly, into the air. At first you think it's just incense, until it moves against the wind. You blink. The smoke isn't drifting. It's climbing. And as you watch, it begins to shimmer, like oil on water, pulsing in soft waves, almost like breathing. It's alive. No one says this out loud, but everyone's looking at it the way you look at something that might respond. The way you'd stare at an animal you're not sure is tame. One of the monks steps forward and begins to sing. Not loud, not tuneful, just a low, vibrating hum that seems to press against your chest. Then another joins in. Then a third. The smoke responds. No, really, it shifts, thickens, bends slightly toward the sound. You swear it expands with the inhale and contracts with the exhale. A skeptical part of your brain offers reasonable theories, temperature differentials, moisture in the air, sound waves causing minor pressure changes. But that part of your brain is starting to feel increasingly irrelevant up here. One anthropologist described this as smoke puppetry, a ritual where chanting controls the movements of sacred vapors. Except no one ever filmed it successfully. The smoke either doesn't appear on camera or appears somewhere else entirely. The wind changes again. This time, the smoke ladder curls backward, forming a spiral. You feel something stir in your stomach, like déjà vu mixed with vertigo. You've seen this shape before. The stone in your pocket, the spiral with dots. You take it out and hold it up. The smoke flickers. No one else seems to notice. A monk glances your way. His eyes widen, and then he smiles. Not kindly, not cruelly. Just like someone who knows a secret you've almost figured out. Then the drums stop. The smoke ladder freezes, straightens, and dissolves like breath on a mirror. The ceremony ends. People begin to leave quietly. You remain still, trying to unstick your thoughts. Your guide appears again, of course. The smoke listens, he says. You turn. To what? Emotion, prayer, sometimes anger. You think about that, how the ladder moved with their singing, how it breathed, how it responded when you held the stone. You ask him what the dots mean. Some say it's a countdown. Some say it's a trail. A trail to where? He shrugs. Back. Mainstream science would love a tidy explanation for this. Maybe a chemical compound in the herbs causes hallucinatory effects. Maybe the elevation, low oxygen, and sensory overload lead to group illusions. Maybe everyone's just very committed to the bit. But then there's the smell. You sniff again. It's not incense anymore. It's sulfur, like a match that's just been blown out. Acrid, sharp, oddly metallic. Not unpleasant, but wrong for a temple. A Russian geochemist once tested the air near a ladder site and found trace elements inconsistent with known atmospheric models, whatever that means. He also claimed his camera kept recording after he turned it off. 12 minutes of silent footage of nothing. Except at the 7-minute mark, a shadow moved across the lens. A shadow of someone who wasn't there. Scientists still argue about it naturally. Most assume faulty equipment or contamination. Nobody mentions the singing. You turn the stone over in your hand. One side is warm, the other cool. Someone once said that the ladders appear only where the veil is thin. Between worlds, between times, between states of being. Where language starts to fail and silence begins to talk back. You feel the air shift again, subtle but noticeable. A faint vibration in your bones. The kind you'd mistake for anxiety or caffeine, or maybe just knowing too much. The monk who sang first walks past you. He doesn't stop. But as he goes, he says just one thing, in a dialect you almost understand. It heard you. And then he's gone. You're not sure who it is, but you do know this. You're starting to dream while you're still awake. By now, you've stopped pretending you're just a tourist. No more mental notes for travel blogs. No more cheerful captions planned for photos you won't share. You're not documenting anymore. You're experiencing. And the more time you spend up here, the more you realize the smoke isn't the only thing that moves strangely. So do people. Today's festival is smaller, quieter. Just a few families gathered near a hillside shrine. Children chase each other through the frost, barefoot and shrieking with laughter. A dog naps by a prayer wheel. Monks chant softly under their breath. And then someone sings. Not a monk this time. A girl, maybe 10 years old, missing a front tooth, holding a string of beads between sticky fingers. Her voice is soft and off-key, but something about it prickles the hair on your arms. The smoke, curling up from a small altar bowl, begins to shift. Again, at first it just dances, normal enough, but then it pulses. One long stretch, then another, as if echoing the girl's melody. She sings louder. The smoke lifts, forming a thin column, just like before. But this time it tilts. It leans toward her, like a snake to a flute. She giggles. The adults pretend not to see. You look at your guide. She sings to it often, he says. You stare. And it listens? He nods. Sometimes. This is no ceremonial event, no sacred hour, just an ordinary day. A child with a tune in her head and a smoke ladder that bends toward the sound. You watch closely. The smoke forms rings now, perfect concentric circles, stacking upward like a cartoon tornado. Then it stops, suspended midair. No wind, no movement, frozen, until the girl claps. Then, shove, it collapses, vanishing into nothing. The dog lifts its head, yawns, and goes back to sleep. There's a word the locals use, semkong, which loosely means dwelling of the breath. It's used to describe spirits, wind, incense, and now you realize, possibly the smoke itself. Not just something seen, but something housed. Something with form and presence. Something with a mind. Mainstream anthropology books mention the term only in passing. A footnote here, a glossary mentioned there. But to the people here, it's not symbolic. It's weather. It's family. It's audience. Your guide tells you another story, this one older. There was a man who laughed at the smoke, he says, mocked the chance, said it was trickery. You wait. One day he sang to it, a joke, a challenge, and the smoke didn't rise. It coiled around his feet. He laughed harder. It wrapped around his waist. You swallow. He stopped laughing when it reached his neck. You ask what happened to him. The guide just says, no one sings like that anymore. In a more grounded moment, you remind yourself that smoke is full of charged particles, that sound has vibration, and that perhaps in just the right humidity, altitude, and light conditions, strange things happen. You could explain this. You want to. But the girl didn't learn this in a lab. She didn't watch a YouTube tutorial on harmonics. She just sang. And the smoke answered. Here's your quirky geographical tidbit for the day. In some regions of Tibet, people believe whistling in the mountains can summon lungta, wind horses that carry prayers to the sky. They're not real horses, of course. They're smoke, breath, wind, prayer. Motion made sacred, sound made visible. Sound and smoke, breath and shape. It keeps coming back to that. Scientists still argue whether these interactions are cognitive illusions, shared psychogenic events, or, less academically, a result of monks being just really good at stagecraft. But none of those theories account for the dog, because at one point, when the smoke bent low toward the child, the dog stood up, growled and barked at it, once, loudly. Then it backed away, tail between its legs, and refused to go near the altar again. You didn't imagine that. You sit on a flat stone as the family begins to pack up. The girl waves goodbye, still humming. You hum back. Nothing happens. No rings. No spiral. Just your own breath, puffing uselessly into the cold. The guide sees your expression. He nods toward your chest. Not from the throat, he says. From the memory. That makes no sense. And yet, you feel a strange pang, like nostalgia for something you haven't lived yet. Back in your tent, you hum again, just a little. And for one moment, one impossible flicker, the steam rising from your T-twists, only once. Then it straightens, harmless, innocent. You say nothing. But the guide, outside, just smiles. You've been here long enough now that your phone is dead. Your schedule is meaningless. and your sense of time has gone soft around the edges. You wake when the light tells you to. You eat when someone hands you something hot. You sleep when the wind calms down enough to stop pulling at your thoughts. But today, something is different. The village is empty. Not abandoned, just quiet. As if someone pressed pause on the usual bustle. Prayer flags still flutter. Smoke curls lazily from chimneys. But no laughter, no footsteps. No children running, no monks chanting. Just stillness. You follow the path toward the western ridge, where you last saw the sky ladder. Along the way, you pass a pile of carefully arranged stones, 5 high, 1 wide, with a smooth flat rock at the base etched with that same spiral you've seen before. A trail marker, a map, a warning. Eventually, you reach a narrow outcrop where 3 men stand beside an odd tripod contraption. At first glance, it looks like a surveyor's tool. Metal arms, a dangling scope, weatherproof casings. Very modern. But the closer you get, the weirder it gets. There are no lenses, no buttons, just thin gold wires stretched in strange geometric patterns between the arms, almost like a harp. You ask what they're doing. Mapping, one says. Mapping what? He points skyward. The path. You look up. Empty sky. Then he holds out a thin slate of black glass. It's not a screen, but more like obsidian, cool and heavy in your palm. When tilted just right, you catch it. A faint outline. Lines, grid marks, a single vertical streak glowing faintly from bottom to top. The ladder, he says. You stare at him. But it's not there, you say. He shrugs. Not now. The idea is almost laughable. Mapping something that only exists when it feels like it. Cartographers deal in tangibles, latitude, elevation, features that stay put. But here they are, trying to pin a smoke ladder to a coordinate system that refuses to cooperate. One of the men points to a small journal, open and flapping in the wind. You glance at the notes. Entry 6. Ladder appeared 0423 local time. Duration 8M17S. Altitude inconsistent. Entry 7. No appearance. Entry 8. Ladder visible on thermal only. Direction =NNE. Entry 9. Ladder detected, but moving. Not vertically, horizontally. You blink. The ladder moved sideways? Twice, the man says, deadpan. Mainstream geographers sometimes hear whispers of these sky ladder sites, but few investigate. There's not much to measure, and less to publish. You can't exactly submit a paper saying, ladder of smoke appears at unpredictable intervals, ignores physics, sometimes climbs sideways like it's looking for something. One expedition tried to use drones. They sent up 5. 4 crashed into a cliff face, despite clear skies. The 5th lost signal, then reappeared 3 days later in a village 30 kilometers away, its footage wiped, except for 6 seconds of audio. A bell, a breath, and a child laughing. Scientists still argue whether the drone malfunctioned, was tampered with, or simply ran out of luck. Your guide appears, again, beside you. They try to map the sacred, he says. Is that bad, you ask? Not bad, just funny. You ask what he means. He smiles. The ladder is not there. It is us. You pretend to understand. You don't. One of the cartographers offers you the obsidian plate again. You hesitate, then look. The line is gone. No glow. No trace. He sighs. Missed it again. You ask if they've ever caught it clearly. One time, he says, clear line, straight into sky. Reflected moonlight back down, like a mirror. What happened? He's quiet. Then, we lost someone. You freeze. Lost? Not dead, just gone, like the ladder took him. He gestures at the tripod harp. This helps us track the frequency. The smoke has a tone, always slightly different, like a fingerprint. You stare at the wires. So it sings? He nods. We just don't know the lyrics yet. Fringe theorists call this phenomenon geospatial impermanence. The idea that some locations are not fixed in the traditional sense, that they're elastic, responding to awareness, intent, even emotion, like Schrodinger's coordinates. They're only when observed just so. You take one last look at the tripod, the glass, the notes. You wonder what kind of maps these are and who they're really for. On the way back, you notice something else. The spiral stones are multiplying. Where before there was one, now there are 5. All in a line. You mention this to your guide. He raises an eyebrow. It's leaving a trail. You look behind you. The wind has erased your footprints. The ladder today is physical. At least, it looks that way. Thick strands of golden fiber stretch from the ground up into the air like an absurd circus prop. It leans gently against the sky, anchored at its base by a massive wooden platform bristling with prayer flags, iron hooks, bundles of herbs, and something that smells suspiciously like singed butter. A monk waves you forward. He wants you to see it up close. You step cautiously onto the platform. The ladder is firmer than you'd expect, woven tight from unfamiliar rope that glints when the light hits it right. Not nylon, not hemp. Your guide murmurs, "It's hair, yak hair, blessed, washed in mountain water, dried during eclipses." You nod like that's a completely normal sentence. The structure stretches maybe 15 meters, though no one here uses meters. It's all spans, lengths, and skyward strides. The ladder's highest point dissolves into the mist, though today the clouds sit oddly above it, like the ladder scared them into keeping their distance. You run your hand along a rung. It's warm. The monk explains that this version of the ladder only appears during the Sangwa-tsen festival, held once every 13 years. Sangwa means hidden, he says, and this ladder is supposed to reveal the unseen steps to the next life, or the previous one. Each rung, they say, corresponds to a lesson. Miss one, and you have to start over. A woman nearby ties a strip of red silk to the bottom rung. You see that others have done the same. Some are embroidered with names. Some have no writing at all, just single, strange symbols. You're tempted to ask what they mean, but you don't. Instead, you ask how the ladder stays up. The monk shrugs. Belief and good knots. Geographically speaking, the terrain here is uniquely suited to weirdness. These mountains, ancient uplifted seabeds twisted by tectonics, form a topographical maze full of magnetic hotspots and oddly symmetrical rock formations. One nearby cave registers subtle radiation bursts every 29.5 days, like clockwork. Scientists suspect some kind of mineral activity. Fringe thinkers, meanwhile, suggest it's the heartbeat of the ladder. You walk around the base. There's a set of bowls set in a circle, 9 of them, each filled with something different. Sand, ash, water, polished stones, feathers, bone dust, bits of mirror, dried fruit, and bizarrely, quartz marbles. What are these for, you ask? To balance the ascent, the monk replies. He explains, somewhat reluctantly, that every physical ladder requires spiritual counterweights. Too much imbalance, and the ladder rejects the climber. Spits them out, he adds. You ask if that's metaphorical. He doesn't answer. A man steps forward now, mid-30s, lean, calm. He removes his shoes and places a small object, the folded photo maybe, into the bowl of feathers. Then, without fanfare, he begins to climb. The wind dies. The ladder doesn't move, but something around it does. The light shifts. The sky behind him darkens slightly, even though the sun hasn't changed. His foot lands on each rung, like he's practiced this for years. Every motion slow, reverent. By the fifth rung, his body begins to shimmer, not glowing exactly, but thinning. You can still see him, but now you can also see through him. By the seventh rung, he's translucent. You see his shape, then you see clouds through it. Then you don't see anything at all. You expect gasps, cheers, applause. There's only silence. The ladder still stands, empty, and still warm. Scientists still argue whether the climbing is actual physical movement or an elaborate ritual trance. No one's been able to study the monks mid-ascension, at least not without being politely but firmly escorted back down the mountain. A few years ago, a university researcher set up motion detectors and thermal imaging around a ladder site. For 10 days, nothing. On the 11th day, the equipment recorded a spike in body heat, rising vertically, rung by rung. Then the sensors melted, literally. The plastic warped and fused like it had been exposed to open flame. The researcher quit his department 3 weeks later. You return to the base, Yomi, after an hour. Still no climber. Still no sign of return. You notice that the photo he left behind, at least you think it was a photo, has disappeared. The feathers remain, undisturbed. The ladder sways once in the wind, then straightens. Your guide, as always, is beside you. Some ladders are not meant to return, he says. You nod. And some climbers? He smiles, but it's the saddest one you've seen yet. Some find what they're looking for. You turn back to the bowl with the mirrors. Your reflection isn't there. You can smell it before you see it. Iron and incense, ozone and rot. The sharp tang of age mixed with something feral. You follow the path toward the rocky slope beyond the eastern ridge. Locals call it the Bone Shelf. There's a group gathered at the base. Monks, villagers, a few ravens watching with that unsettling, almost human patience. Everyone here knows what's about to happen. No one says a word. You're here for a sky burial. The body lies on a flat stone slab. It's wrapped loosely in faded yellow fabric, bound with twine, dusted with crushed juniper and barley flour. It doesn't smell like death. Not quite. Just dryness. High-altitude preservation does strange things to flesh. A monk steps forward, muttering prayers. Another begins to unfold a set of tools. Curved blades, bone scrapers, blunt stones. Nothing is sterilized. Everything is sacred. You've read about this, maybe. Sky burials are a Tibetan funerary practice meant to return the body to nature. No graves, no tombs, just air, stone, and scavengers. The belief is simple. The body is empty after death. A vessel discarded, so why bury it? Let it nourish life instead. The body is prepared, exposed, not cut into, offered. The vultures know the timing. They circle above, wings wide and silent, waiting. But something else draws your eye. Beside the slab is a low altar. Atop it, a coil of rope, blackened, singed, smelling of smoke and pepper. A mini ladder, no taller than your knee, coiled like a sleeping question mark. Around it, small clay tokens, each etched with symbols, spirals, eyes, stars. This, your guide whispers, is the ladder of passage. Not all sky ladders go up, he explains. Some go sideways. Some go inward. You frown. So what is this one for? He nods toward the corpse. To help the spirit climb out. It's a concept hard to explain to Western logic. The idea that death isn't a fall, but an escape. That a ladder can guide the spirit's exit, not to heaven, but to elsewhere. Someplace quieter, older. Monks chant louder now. The first vulture lands. Its eyes are yellow, unblinking, unafraid. You half expect the ladder to ignite, or pulse, or twist upward, but it doesn't. It just sits, still, present, as if waiting to be noticed by something else entirely. Here is a mainstream fact to ground yourself. Vultures are critically important to high-altitude ecosystems like this one. They clean up remains before they rot, preventing disease. In Tibet, they're not vermin. They're celestial. Known as dakini birds, sky dancers. Fringe accounts, though, describe strange incidents during sky burials. Birds hovering without descending. Corpses disappearing before touch. Ashes forming spirals. One unreliable but persistent rumor tells of a ladder rising from a burial slab, followed by a flock that flew straight into the clouds and never came back down. Scientists still argue whether these stories are exaggerations, misrememberings, or the result of altitude-induced hallucinations. But the locals don't argue. They just keep watching. A gust of wind kicks up dust. The rope quivers. The chanting reaches a peak. And then, silence. The body is gone. Not in a flash, not in a miracle. Just no longer there. Bones remain, scattered and pale. But the flesh, the shape, the person isn't. Everyone bows. You do too, out of instinct. Later, one of the monks beckons you toward the altar. He offers you one of the clay tokens. You hesitate, but take it. A spiral again. This one more chaotic than the others. Jagged, incomplete. Unfinished path, he says. To what? Where you started. That night, your dreams are strange. Not nightmares, just heavy. Like walking through water, or smoke, or memory. You see ladders with no tops, spirals that spin inward, a pair of eyes, familiar and not, watching you from above, or maybe below. You wake with the clay token still in your palm. You swear it's warmer than it should be. The mist is thick today, thicker than milk, thicker than memory. It clings to everything, the rocks, your boots, the insides of your lungs. The village is muffled. You hear murmurs, metal chimes, the soft bleating of goats. But all of it sounds like it's coming from underwater. You're supposed to meet a monk at the old bell tower, though tower is generous. It's a crooked stone structure, half swallowed by moss, barely 2 stories tall. Its only feature is the bell itself. Tarnished, cracked, silent. But they say it rings, not by hand, by Ascent. The sky ladder is thinner here, less of a smoke coil, more of a shimmer. On some days, it's only visible through reflection. Pools of water, polished metal, even the pupil of a cow's eye. One monk insists the bell only rings when someone climbs the invisible ladder beside it. You find him waiting at the base. Long white hair, knotted beads, eyes like cracked glass. He holds a staff carved with spiral marks, not decorative, repeating, countable. How many have climbed it, you ask? He smiles. Enough to keep the bell afraid. You look up. Nothing. Then you look again. There, if you squint. A ripple in the fog, a distortion, like heat rising from pavement, except it's vertical. You reach out. Your fingers pass through it, but not without resistance, like pressing into cold gelatin. The monk points to your chest. Only climb when the bell agrees. And if it doesn't, he shrugs. You fall. But there's nothing to fall from. No, he says, but much to fall into. He gestures toward the bell. It hasn't moved in decades, or so you thought. Then the wind shifts, and it swings, just once. A deep, dull tonong that vibrates through your ribs and down into your feet. You stagger. No one touched it. Your guide joins you now, unusually serious. We call this the ghost bell. It rings when someone climbs a ladder not meant for them. Has anyone ever come back? Sometimes, he says, but they don't speak. You glance again at the shimmer. It's stronger now, like a rope woven from air. You can almost see rungs. The monk takes a step back. You don't climb it, obviously. You're not that curious. But someone else does. From behind the tower, a figure steps forward, thin, hooded, barefoot. They say nothing. Don't look at anyone. Just walk to the shimmer, lift one foot, and place it midair. The air holds them. They climb. 1 rung, 2, 5. The fog doesn't part. It closes tighter around them, swallowing everything above the knees. Then the waist. Then the chest. Only the head remains. Then, tung! The bell swings again. This time, it doesn't stop. It chimes once more. Then a third time, each one deeper, more resonant. The ground seems to pulse with the sound. Then silence. The climber is gone. The fog disperses slowly, like it's trying to remember where it left everything. The shimmer is gone. The bell is still. The air is cold. And you notice something strange. A feather, black and violet, has landed in your hand. You didn't reach for it. You don't know where it came from. But it's wet, as if it traveled through something alive. Your guide nods solemnly. They say the bell chooses. Chooses what? Who gets to leave the story? You laugh, but it's the kind of laugh that feels more like asking for help. Mainstream physicists call this nonsense. Gravity, they say, is consistent. Bells do not ring themselves. People do not climb air. Ladders do not shimmer into fog and vanish. But one experimental physicist did write a short, heavily redacted paper titled Localized Atmospheric Anomalies Near Acoustic Structures in High-Altitude Ritual Sites. It was retracted a month later. Scientists still argue about what makes the bell swing. You hold the feather longer than you meant to. It dries in your palm, then crumbles into dust. The monk touches your shoulder. Better to stay grounded, he says. Why? He smiles. The ladder never stops climbing. Today, no one will take you past the ridge. You asked 3 times. The monks pretended not to hear. The children shook their heads. Even your guide gave you that look, the one that says, "You could go, but I won't come with you." The mountain peak in question is called Karka TSO. The name loosely means echoing silence. The irony? That name came after the disappearances. Before that, it had no name at all. It isn't tall by Himalayan standards, but something about it repels attention. It's not marked on any maps. Even satellite imagery glitches near it. No trails lead to it. But locals speak of it in murmurs, like it's a bruise the earth doesn't want pressed. Years ago, 3 monks attempted an ascent with the stated goal of reaching the anchor of the ladder. What that meant, nobody really explained. They left just before sunrise, carrying nothing but bells, butter lamps, and a single strip of sky ladder rope. They never returned. A week later, a rescue group followed their path, found footprints leading halfway up. Then, none. No gear, no blood, just a series of spirals carved into the rock, as if someone had walked in circles, vertically. The government declared the peak off limits. Military warning signs now dot the base. Rusted, frostbitten, ignored. Geological instability, they say. Landslide risk. Trespass forbidden. Sure. You wait near one of these signs, watching fog curl up the rock like a lazy snake. From this distance, Karka TSO doesn't look dangerous. It looks empty, like a half-erased memory. And then, just for a second, you see it. A shimmer. High up on the slope, between 2 crags, a flicker of movement. Not a person. A thread, silver, vertical, unattached, and gone before you can blink again. You turn to your guide. Did you see that? He doesn't answer. Because he's not there. You're alone. For a single moment, you wonder if you should follow the shimmer. The air around you feels different, charged, like before a storm. The wind picks up. You step back, and your guide is there again. You didn't hear him approach. Don't chase ghosts, he says quietly. They're faster than you. You nod, throat dry. He tells you more about the 3 monks. One left behind a journal, he says, not a physical one, a dream. He appeared in another monk's sleep 3 days after the climb. And he said the ladder ended too soon, that there was something else waiting at the top. Your guide lowers his voice. But it wasn't the end. Then what was it? He looks at the mountain, eyes distant. A door that doesn't open, a sky with no stars, a silence that breathes. You try to laugh, but the sound doesn't come out. Here's your grounding fact for the day. There are over 1,500 restricted zones across the Himalayas, many due to natural hazards. But a surprising number have no clear reason. No seismic activity, no military bases, no mining, just closures and locals who won't explain. Fringe forums call these places dim anchors, sites where reality occasionally loses its footing. Karka TSO appears on 6 such lists, always under aliases, and always with the same warning. Do not follow the ladder if it floats without wind. Scientists still argue whether such areas are the result of geomagnetic anomalies, hallucination-inducing gases, or simply superstition amplified by isolation. But you saw the shimmer. and you saw the rope, and you weren't supposed to. Back in the village, an old woman hands you a candle. No explanation. Just places it in your palm, nods once, and walks away. Your guide translates for your shadow, in case it tries to leave before you do. You carry it back to your tent. That night, you dream of Karka TSO, of spirals carved into the ice, of a bell that rings upward, of a sky with no stars. And when you wake, the candles burn down half an inch, but you never lit it. You're used to surprises by now. Rope that burns upward, smoke that listens, ladders that breathe. But this one hits differently, because now someone else is here. Foreigners, not tourists. Too serious, too silent. They arrived by chopper 3 days ago. No one greeted them. No one needed to. You know authority when you see it. 4 men, 1 woman, all wearing dark windbreakers, heavy boots, no insignias. They set up camp just outside the village, ignoring every custom and greeting like they were swatting flies. But it's what they carried that got attention. Big silver cases, tripod-mounted sensors, a drone with more antennas than a radio tower, and one strange cube-like device about the size of a microwave, wrapped in copper wire and constantly humming. NASA insignia? Nope. But your guide says one of the villagers read their documents. Just one word stood out. Geoatmos. Officially, it's not a real agency. Unofficially, it's been whispered about in geology forums and deep weird newsletters for years. Supposedly tied to both climate surveillance and exceptional atmospheric phenomena. Fringe types say it's where agencies dump the data. They don't know how to explain, and now they're here. Not for you, not for the village, for the latter. They set up on the western ledge, the one where the shimmer was strongest last week. Within hours, that whole area was closed off. No monks, no pilgrims, no explanation. But the monks didn't complain. They just went quiet, which is somehow worse. You sneak closer, not out of rebellion, just curiosity. You've already abandoned your old self somewhere between the fire ladder and the bell tower. What's one more secret? From a distance, you see them powering up the cube. The humming sharpens. You feel it in your molars. You try to back away, but your legs don't want to move. Then, the shimmer returns. The sky folds. For just a moment, less than a blink, you see something vertical form above the device. Not smoke, not rope, more like a scar, a glowing seam in the air, twitching slightly, trying to unzip. And then it closes. Hard. The drone crashes. One of the men falls to his knees. The woman yells something, but her voice warps, as if played backward underwater. Then everything stops. The hum dies. The fog clears. The cube sparks once, then goes dark. The team begins packing up immediately. No notes, no samples, just haste. The next morning, they're gone. Chopper out, no goodbyes. But not before one of the villagers snapped a blurry photo. You see it later. The glowing seam is there, faint, crooked, vertical. The timestamp? 3:33 a.m. Same time as every documented ladder appearance you've heard of. You ask your guide what he makes of it. They came to test what can't be tested, he says. The ladder knew. Knew what? that they weren't climbing, only watching. Mainstream science doesn't even acknowledge sky ladders, let alone send satellite agencies to measure them. But several high-altitude weather stations across the region have had unexplained data spikes for years. Heat columns with no source, pressure shifts that don't align with elevation. Fringe theorists believe the ladders are extrusions, not physical structures, but momentary projections from another place, or another layer, that they aren't rising from the Earth, but descending to it. Scientists still argue whether these anomalies justify investigation. Most choose to look the other way, but someone clearly didn't. You find something odd at the site the next day. Amid crushed grass and abandoned sensor rods, there's a single spiral stone. Same as yours, but this one is etched with a line through the middle, like something was broken or cut. You pocket it anyway. Later, when you're back at your tent, you hold both stones together. And for a moment, just for a heartbeat, they hum. You know what comes next. The story always circles back to doubt, to tape fuzzed with static, to unverified footage. And here it is, finally, the video. It's passed from hand to hand, like a secret too heavy to carry but too dangerous to bury. Low resolution, probably from a handheld camcorder. No metadata, no author, just a few grayish clips stitched together and burned onto a DVD wrapped in a silk pouch. The monks say it appeared on the monastery steps one morning. Nobody saw who left it. Naturally, you ask to watch it. They say no. You ask again. They say yes. Under one condition. You watch it alone, and you don't ask questions afterward. Not because it's forbidden, just pointless. You agree. They bring you to a room with one chair, one table, one ancient DVD player plugged into a small TV. You sit. The disc loads. Black screen. Then a shaky shot of a stone altar. Familiar. Prayer flags flap violently in the wind. The camera zooms upward into the sky. Nothing visible. Then, movement. A shimmer. A blur. A figure. Far above. Indistinct. Distorted by altitude and light, but definitely there. Climbing. 1 foot above the other. No visible support. The ladder, if there is one, is invisible. Then the camera shakes. You hear breathing. Then a whisper. He's not coming back. The image cuts to black. Then static. Then one final clip. The camera is on the ground now. You see sky, wind, bits of grass. A shadow passes over the lens. And then the bell chimes, just once. The screen cuts to black. End of disc. You sit still for a long time. The monks collect the DVD, wrap it back in silk, and store it in a small wooden box beside a clay spiral. You're not sure what you saw. Could be a hoax. A staged climb with clever wires. A drone and some fog machines. You've seen plenty of fakes before. But this one feels different. Because it didn't want to be seen. And fakes always want to be seen. Mainstream debunkers had a field day with the clip when it first leaked, claiming digital tampering, motion blur, or just birds. Some said the figure was a weather balloon tangled in invisible cable. Others said it was a viral art project, but no one claimed authorship, and no one ever explained the bell. Scientists still argue about the footage's origin. Every frame has been dissected by analysts, lighting experts, and visual effects engineers. Some call it laughable, Others won't speak on record. You step out into the cold. Something in the air has shifted, subtly. You notice it when you breathe, how the sky feels closer, not above you, around you. You find your guide waiting near the shrine. He doesn't ask how the video was. Instead, he hands you something. A drawing, ink on cloth, faint lines forming a ladder, a bell, and at the top, an eye, open, watching. What is this? He smiles. A reminder. Of what? That you can see without climbing. You look again. The lines shimmer ever so slightly, like heat off pavement. Later that night, in your tent, you review the video in your mind. Not the figure, not the bell, the voice. You replay it again and again. He's not coming back. But who was he? And why did he climb? You hold your stone spirals side by side. One whole, one with a cut. Together, they almost form a shape, a symbol, a map, or maybe a warning. You're dreaming again, but it doesn't feel like yours. You're walking, not through the village, not through mist or frost, but upward. No ground beneath you, no rope, just steps that appear as needed, like the world is inventing itself one rung at a time. You look down, nothing. You look up, more steps, a flicker, a hum, and then wind. Not like earth wind. This one breathes. It tastes like stone dust and cedar smoke and electricity. You wake with a jolt, except you're not entirely awake because something's still pulling. You crawl out of your tent. The sky is pre-dawn gray, that blue-silver hue that makes everything look softer and sharper at the same time. The air hums, not loud, just enough to buzz your fingertips. You follow it. No guide this time. No villagers. Just the path, the wind, and that faint vibration. And then you see them, spiral stones, laid out one after the other, leading into the gorge. You hadn't noticed this path before, or maybe it hadn't existed. Up here, you're done pretending to know which is which. You follow. The stones grow smaller as you go, like they're pulling you inward, like the spiral is turning into itself. Eventually, you reach a clearing. At the center, a rope ladder. Real. Woven from yak hair, yes, but interlaced with something else. Fibers that glint like spider silk under moonlight. The base rests on a stone platform surrounded by tokens. Bowls, feathers, marbles, the usual. But this time, one bowl holds something you haven't seen before. A mirror. Small, cracked, facing up. You kneel. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the ladder shifts. Not much, just a twitch, like it sensed you. The wind dies. A bird cries in the distance. You place your spiral stones beside the mirror. The ladder twitches again. You feel it. In your chest. In your teeth. A yes. Then footsteps behind you. You don't turn. The guide's voice is quiet. Are you ready? You ask. To climb? He chuckles. No, just to see. He walks past you and stands beside the mirror. He tilts it ever so slightly. And now the sky reflects in it. Not the current sky, though. A different one. Stars that aren't in any constellation chart. A moon that's wrong. Sharper. closer. Then the ladder moves again. It breathes. And then a figure. You barely see them. Half there, rising up the ladder with calm, impossible steps. They shimmer. No rope under their feet. Just movement. Then one hand stretches outward. They're holding something. A bell. Small. Silver. Not swinging. Your guide steps back. He brings it down this time. You watch as the figure descends. Slowly, slowly, until one foot lands on the lowest rung, then the other. They step off. They are not what you expected. Not glowing, not ghostly, just tired, older than old. Face lined with something deeper than age. Not sad, not joyful, just done. They place the bell on the platform beside your stones, then vanish. No fanfare, no sound, just gone. You look at the bell, then at your guide. He nods. It's for you. You hesitate, then reach out. You expect cold metal. It's warm. It hums, not like vibration, like breath. Mainstream science would have nothing to say here. There's no precedent for ladders that choose climbers or for bells that return themselves. No physics model includes dream-coordinated rituals or altitude-induced reality slips. And yet, here you are, holding a bell that doesn't belong to any monastery, standing beside a mirror that shows another sky, listening to a wind that feels like it's waiting for you to speak. Fringe thinkers call this state spatial shedding, the moment where the rules start to loosen. When up and down, time and place, real and unreal, all lean in towards each other. Scientists still argue if it even matters. You look back at your stones. One is missing. In its place, a third one, etched with a ladder and a question mark. You pocket it. The bell doesn't chime, not yet. You've stopped asking what's real. The rope, the shimmer, the monks who vanish. None of it fits tidy categories anymore. You carry 3 stones in your pocket now. You touch them absent-mindedly, like a habit. Spiral, split spiral, and now, ladder question mark. They're heavy for their size, or maybe it's just what they represent. Today, the villagers are gathering again. Quietly. No drums, no fire, just silence and the smell of fresh snow. You join them, drawn by instinct more than invitation. They stand at the edge of the gorge, staring at a patch of sky that seems off. Not darker, not lighter, just thinner. Like if you stared long enough, you might see through it. The monks form a circle. Each one holds a bell. Not all the same. Some large and brass. Some tiny, like thimbles. All slightly tarnished. All vibrating. The air smells like lightning. You glance up. No ladder yet. And then it rises, but not from the ground, from the people. Smoke leaks gently from the monks' mouths, their fingers, their robes. It coils upward, soft and slow, forming a spiral column in midair. The villagers don't flinch. This isn't new to them. It's old. It's part of the rhythm. The ladder breathes once, then settles into stillness. Someone steps forward. You. No one stops you. You approach the base, stones in one hand, bell in the other. The rope isn't physical. Not this time. You know you can't climb it. But that's not what it wants. it wants something else. You sit cross-legged at the base. Place the stones in a triangle. Lay the bell in the center. The rope flickers. The wind stops, and the ladder begins to descend. Not physically, not visibly, but inward. You close your eyes, and you're falling. Not down, not up, just in. Through memory, through time, through all the other times this has happened. Through all the stories the world couldn't hold because they weren't made of facts. They were made of breath. You see a monk who tied the rope to the moon. You see a child whose song woke the sky. You see the man who didn't come back, but did. And then you see yourself, not now, then. Standing at the edge of something that cannot be mapped, looking up at the rope, hand outstretched, asking a question you won't remember when you wake. The ladder answers, not with words, but with choice. And then it is over. You open your eyes. The villagers are gone. The ladder is gone. Your guide stands beside you. He says, "It let you keep the bell." You glance down. It's still in your hand, still warm, still humming. Mainstream science has no place for this. No instruments to measure a spiral-shaped memory. No formulas for a ladder made of silence. No way to calibrate the weight of a bell you never rang. Scientists still argue about what constitutes evidence. But you've stopped needing it. You carry the bell now. Not for proof, for reminder. You walk back to the village, alone, but not lonely. The spiral stones in your pocket feel lighter now. The sky above you stretches wide and still, and just before you reach your tent, you hear it. Ton! Not loud, not near, but clear. The ladder has moved, and it knows your name. You're safe now. Really. Let go of the rope. Forget the shimmer. Forget the bell. There's no need to climb anything tonight. The wind outside is soft. The smoke has settled. The ladder, if it ever was there, is resting somewhere between the stars and your dreams. Let it be. Your hands are warm. Your breathing is slow. The weight of the day is lifting off your shoulders like dust shaken from old robes. The stones in your pocket, the ones you carried so long, leave them by the bedside, if only in your mind. They'll still be there in the morning, or maybe they won't. Either way, you'll be okay. Let your thoughts spiral gently, not in confusion, but in rhythm. Like a mantra you don't need to understand. Like a song, only the sky remembers how to hum. The questions can wait. The bell doesn't need to ring tonight. It's quiet now. Listen to that. The ladder has gone somewhere else. It climbs without footsteps. It breathes without lungs. It remembers you, even if you forget it by morning. That's okay. Sleep is here. You made it back. No climbing required. And if, just if, you dream of a rope that burns upward, or of smoke that bends to your voice, or of a monk who smiles with someone else's memories, let it pass. You don't have to follow. Just rest. Let the sky hold the rest of the story. Sweet dreams.